Well, let's head to Nigeria now. An organization tasked with cleaning up the country's murky oil industry says even though financial accountability has improved, the state oil company still hasn't explained billions of dollars in missing revenue. Now, while energy producers have cooperated and complied with requirements to publish payments, NEITI, which has struggled with the state-owned Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, the state oil company hasn't explained exactly what it did with at least $22.7 billion earned from the sale of oil licenses and in dividends from its stake in Nigeria's LNG. That's over about a 15-year period. Well, let's examine this issue further with Deji Badmus. He joins us now in Lagos. Deji, welcome to the show. Now, this, of course, isn't the first time we've heard of this happening. In late 2013, we saw Nigeria's then CBN governor, Lamido Sanusi, claiming that NNPC had failed to remit about $20 billion to Nigeria's government. Now, nothing happened then, Deji. Any signs this government will do anything about it now?
Well, Uche, now, if you're talking about the $20 billion that Sanusi alleged was taken by the NNPC, well, I don't know, because up till this moment, apart from that allegation, we know nothing has been proven yet. But in terms of this one that NEITI has actually, I'm talking about NEITI now, the allegation that NNPC has not remitted about 22-point-something billion. Well, NNPC has come out with an explanation. So far, the government hasn't done anything about it. I think what we're expecting, or what the government is expecting to see, is for both sides now to meet, because NNPC continues to maintain that it is, it actually kept that money now and actually used it with the authorization of the government. So it's just, we just have to wait and see what actually happens. But so far, the government hasn't said anything at all about the claims by NEITI. And the irony of it all is that NEITI is actually a creation of the federal government. So, and the government actually changed the leadership of that organization sometime in 2015 just because it wants to ensure there's some kind of transparency now in the operations of the NNPC, Uche.
Now, of course, NEITI, which is the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, it's the agency you talk about, and it was the agency that made this revelation. Critics say, however, Deji, that it lacks any power to do anything about this audit. How exactly have we seen NEITI help the government recover any of these stolen funds?
Well, fact is this, it's true that NEITI hasn't got the power of enforcement, but the fact is that there are quite a number of agencies of enforcement in this country, and prominent of them, of course, would be the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. So what you would expect NEITI to do is that after carrying out its investigation, after, for instance, discovering any suspicion or any malfeasance, if you like, what it does is to place or submit its reports now to the enforcement agencies, of course, and the government, of course, to actually compel now whichever agency is involved, now in this case the NNPC, to comply with whatever NEITI wants it to do. There's no question at all that NEITI has helped the government in well, if you like, identifying some loopholes in the operations of the NNPC. And I think it's partly because of that the NNPC on its own, sometime in 2015 decided to become a bit more transparent, even though a lot of people would tell you, well, there's still a lot more work to be done in terms of the transparency of the NNPC. But as we speak today, Uche, the NNPC now has what it calls its financial and operations report that comes out every month. That of December is out. So now at least people have an idea of the operations and financial state of the NNPC. But of course, people would tell you that a lot more still needs to be done to ensure that that agency becomes more open and more transparent. But fact is that some of these issues, of course, I mean, some of the things that the NNPC does now, you could actually tie it down to the work of NEITI, because if NEITI had actually not made that push, we probably would not have been seeing some of the things that NNPC has now been doing. I mean, trying to be open, put its accounts now open to the public to let Nigerians know how it operates.
Well, Well, Deji, let's talk a little bit more about the NNPC. Now, NEITI did say that the oil sector is no longer the black hole it once was, but it did say that it still can use more transparency. So looking at NNPC now, is graft under control, even with the transparency?
To be candid, that would be very difficult to say, very difficult to say, because just a couple of months back, the Minister of Petroleum, Ibe Kachuko, actually said, you know, that yes, there is some level of transparency in NNPC now. And by the way, he actually initiated, you know, it was when he was the GMD of NNPC that the NNPC actually started this whole transparency initiative. So, but even he himself confirmed that much still needs to be done, and that the NNPC still has a long way to go. But you know, the fact is that there's been a significant improvement as confirmed by NEITI compared to what the situation used to be in the past. No doubt about that. But of course, from those involved, I mean, coming from the Minister of State for Petroleum now, much work still needs to be done. And I guess it's also one of the reasons why the government is thinking of unbundling the NNPC. Of course, as you know, a bill is before the National Assembly now. I'm talking about the Petroleum Industry Bill. Part of that bill has been passed. We're still waiting for the remaining part to be passed. Now, when the entire bill is passed, you expect that the NNPC will be unbundled, and then the operations of the NNPC will become much more transparent, and Nigerians will, you know, basically have a full grasp now of how the that corporation works, and you know, what the country generates in terms of revenue from oil, how much it produces. I'm talking about barrels of oil now it produces on a daily basis. So things will become perhaps more transparent when the NNPC is unbundled. And I believe the government recognizes that. That is why it is pushing ahead with the Petroleum Industry Bill. You know, pushing ahead, of course, as you know, the National Assembly, I'm talking about Parliament now, doing everything it can to pass that bill to ensure there's complete transparency now in the petroleum industry.
Well, as always, many thanks, Deji, for your insights. Deji Badmus joining us in Lagos there.